Now, we haven't gotten Mrs. Clinton to testify yet at this point. So what sort of information were we getting that you thought would be, it's important for our listeners or viewers to see in terms of setting us up for this next major development?
So for the discovery up to this point, the crucial information that we really found out is, first of all, the office that was providing the security to and the technology services to Secretary Clinton's office.
The help desk. That's
yes,
what I call it.
It's the help desk, but it's the help desk that's dedicated just to her office. So they have often interactions with the Secretary's office. That office, in the most recent testimonies that we received, we've learned that they were informed about Secretary Clinton's email use very soon after she started at the State Department, and that they had to know that information to do their jobs. And the other piece of it as well, and this goes specific to the State Department and what the State Department officials knew and when they knew it. The other piece of it is the FOIA officials, the Freedom of Information Act officials at the State Department, and when they interacted with the IT office for Secretary Clinton's office and what they were told. And that's part of the reason that Judge Lamberth provided us the opportunity to depose two. One is a former official, and I believe one is still an employee, the director actually of the office, those two individuals to be deposed.
So these are names that people won't know or hear of or probably even recognize in the future. But they're important witnesses. So Mrs.
Yes.
Clinton is going to be deposed, and we'll talk about that further. But
Yeah.
to start off, there are two witnesses who, knew or should have known at the time about her emails, and then
Right.
subsequent about what her email practices were.
Right, and we know that those two individuals interacted with at least one FOIA official who we deposed, Tasha Tian, in the last round of discovery, and she was basically the archivist for the State Department. And then we also know that they also interacted, the director, Brett Gittleson, with the attorneys at the State Department who were handling the FOIA cases, including, going back to 2013.
Did the FBI interview these people?
We don't know. That's something we'll ask them.
Have you seen any evidence they did?
I do not know. A lot of...
you've looked at what the FBI has produced publicly in terms of what their
Correct.
investigation.
Correct.
You haven't seen these folks have been
I have not seen that they've been interviewed. Now, many officials' names are redacted from
So
the
maybe.
FBI
So it's maybe.
302s, but so far we haven't seen anything to indicate that they have. But
So
we'll confirm it.
another interesting thing of the discovery is what Mrs. Clinton and her top people were warned about in terms of email use. We had some pretty dramatic revelations in that regard, haven't we?
Yes, that's Ambassador Boswell's testimony, who we were able to obtain. And she was warned, I believe, in person as well, where she acknowledged that she understood the warnings about using her BlackBerry, which we know very well she used readily for State Department business. And I believe she was warned 3 times, at least 3 times.
Personally?
Yes.
And it's like a half a dozen times if you include her top staff.
Oh, correct.
Yeah, it would probably be more than that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, look, it's not easy to bring in, even if Mrs. Clinton's been out of office since when, 2012? It's not easy to bring in, to convince the court to bring in a former senior official to testify under oath in the Freedom of Information Act case. What was it that Judge Lamberth what is it that you had to show to court in order to persuade the court? What standards did you have to kind of meet in order to persuade the court to allow us to depose Mrs. Clinton?
Look, I think the reason that we're here today is because the State Department has continued to do what it was doing back when Secretary Clinton was still in office. And it's to obstruct the information and to actually come out. Had the State Department come out and said, this is what happened, were coming clean, I'm not sure we'd be here today. But every single time we've been before Judge Lambert, there's new information that's become available and more questions being raised. So for the last time that we were in front of Judge Lambert, we had just found out that 30 additional emails, right, have been discovered or produced by the State Department, which we understand were forwarded from the FBI. And this was back in October, in or around October of 2019. The FBI did its investigation in 2015. That's 4 years later that we're still getting emails. So it's really the loss of confidence.
And they couldn't tell the judge where they came from. I mean, I was at that hearing in December. They couldn't tell the judge where it came from.
Correct.
Where they came from.
Correct.
But again, what is it that the court wants to hear before he brings in a senior person like Mrs. Clinton? There's language about the Apex Doctrine and how the Apex Doctrine basically is you've got to really have a good reason to bring in the head of an agency or even a former head of an agency to talk to them about what they were doing.
Absolutely, and you have to show that there's firsthand knowledge that because it's a cabinet level, it's a head of an agency official. You actually have, and because the questions here go to Secretary Clinton's state of mind and what she understood, not only about why she used the email, but Judge Lambert wants to know what was her understanding about her record management responsibilities at the State Department. We have testimony in this case from Tasha Tian saying she provided training to at least, I believe she identified Huma Abedin at least in one of the trainings with respect to what they were permitted to do and what they were not permitted to do. But then not only upon coming to the State Department, but also leaving. And what was Secretary Clinton's understanding as to what she could take with her when she left the State Department? Because they have a form that they have to sign off if there are any personal papers, etc. But it has to be reviewed by State Department officials and signed off that they may take those. The one thing that's missing from that form is Secretary Clinton's email account at clintonemail.com.
And we now know that account contained government and classified information.
Correct.
And why is it that it's important that Huma Abedin was warned and was trained on these issues?
Well, obviously, Huma Abedin was Secretary Clinton's Deputy Chief of Staff, and there was a responsibility for not only Secretary Clinton, but her entire staff to follow the protocol, but also to inform Secretary Clinton as to what her responsibilities and obligations were.
And Abedin had an email account on the server.
Well, that's the other thing. Yes, correct. Sorry, I forgot.
How quickly we forget.
Yes.
We've already deposed Huma Abedin, and
we have.
I guess we didn't have good reason to depose her again.
Not yet.
Yeah. There you go. That's what I like to hear.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.